OP12 Bonds Between Master and Disciple releases out in Japan later this week. And after getting one of the strongest decks created in the One Piece trading card game in Blue Purple Luffy, a lot of people are really curious about this upcoming set to see if it also has a heavy impact on the game. The official One Piece TCG website has every single card now in minimum rarity, at least on their website. So we're going to review the entire set today, give our first initial reactions, and a little bit of predictions on what we think could be happening in the upcoming meta. Our friends over at Nengarnet have officially kicked off the summer sale on their website. Prices are slashed from 10% to 60% across the entire store now. You can pick up some crazy discounts on One Piece based mats like the Heavenly Yaksha, some great anime themed mats like Paranormal Playmat and also the Curse vs. Beast, as well as if you get a Sun God playmat right now while supplies last. Every purchase of this specific Stitched Edge playmat gets a free playmat tube as well to help protect what you love, as well as a brand new pre-order that's dropped in the Pokemon region if you're a fan of Final Boss, which the colors on this are insane, man. I love this design. You can use my code Atrocious to save an extra 5% off and help support the channel, and make sure to grab your new favorite playmat while this sale's going on because you don't want to miss it. Now, back to the video. So the first leader on our list is Silver's Rayleigh, right? 5 life, 5,000 power, former Rogers Pirates leader. This leader has had a lot of good conversation within the One Piece community because according to the rules, you cannot put cards with cost of 5 or more into your deck. Looking at this first glance and first reaction, a lot of people are like, oh man, this really inhibits deck building. You know, you've got stuff like Blue Purple Luffy that are running around with multiple 9 costs, 8 costs on the field after the first couple turns of the game. How can something like Silver's Rayleigh compete? And let me tell you, there is a lot of support for Silver's Rayleigh within this set. So I think a lot of that will start to evolve here in your mind soon. But with the other effect that he has an activate main once per turn. If you reveal 2 event cards in your hand, up to one of your characters with an original power of 4,000 or less gets 2,000 power during the turn. So especially when you talk about how cards are usually printed, right, with a cost of 4 and lower, usually they don't have any sort of power above 6,000, right, without any sort of extra effects. I think the only thing that I can think of is like a 4/6 vanilla. So it makes sense with a leader that can't use bigger bodies to be able to power up those little bodies on the field to be able to get them to compete without even really dawn investment. Now, Edward Newgate, just a 5/6 2K vanilla. We started seeing 2K vanillas be printed in OP11, and this is just another iteration of that. Now we have Kurokasu, is how I believe it's pronounced. Former Roger Pirates, 2 costs, 3,000 power, 1K counter. On KO, you can reveal 2 event cards from your hand and bring into play up to 1 red character with a power of 3,000 or less from your hand. I don't expect this to be too great, but one of the things that I really find interesting with the leader, remember that Silver's Rayleigh gives a character of 4,000 power or less 2,000 power. Although you could just say that you could ignore this character on the field, right? Being a 3,000 base is going to be 5,000 power without any dawn investment. And if you've got 2 event cards from your hand to be able to give the power to this guy and swing, you probably have 2 event cards to be able to use this on KO effect to be able to put out another body on the field. I think it's a really interesting card for support. You also have this Kozuki Oden, who by the way is Wano Country, Kozuki family, and also Roger Pirates. It's a 2 cost 3,000 power that has pretty good synergy with the leader effect, as I mentioned earlier, but on this activate main once per turn, you can reveal 2 event cards from your hand and this character gains another 2,000 power, effectively making it a 7,000 power character synergizing with your leader effect, right? Especially with these low bodies early, right? Think about on your second turn going second. First turn, you play this guy down. Second turn, you go ahead, use leader effect, but also this Odin effect because, well, if you have 2 event cards in your hand, all you have to do is reveal them. You don't have to trash them, put them back in deck. On your second turn, this 2 Dawn body will be 7,000 power, swinging at face, and you still have 4 Dawn to work with to do whatever you want with within the turn. That's pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. And especially with Land of Wano type decks, right? You could talk about something like Odin, right? Red-Green Odin. Red-Green Odin can utilize this card for the early game, right? To get some aggressive starts. And if you're playing a little bit more events, I know a lot of people kind of play around with like Electrical Luna, Gum Gum Mole Pistol, stuff like that. If you happen to have 2 in your hand, it's the same thing, right? 5,000 power swing without any Dawn investment. You've got Shiki, a high-end 810 1K counter. This is also a film character, something to note. I think this set has a little bit of film support in it for the red Uta players. We have Shakuyaku, I believe is how this is pronounced. Now, this is a 1-drop searcher that the type is Amazon Lily. That's something to note. On play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal a Monkey D. Luffy or a red event card, then add it to your hand, place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Especially in Silver's Rayleigh, this could be a searcher for that deck, even though it doesn't have the same typing, right? We've seen this in the game before, especially most recently in Doflamingo, right? Doflamingo had the 1-cost Sengoku that, even though search for 7 warlords and pieces that you wanted to find, was a Navy type card. It wasn't necessarily a 7 warlords of the sea type thing. This 1-drop searcher has this same efficiency. Now, we've known about this Shanks for a while, this 2-cost 2,000 power little guy, but on play, up to one of your characters with the Rogers Pirate trait other than your Shanks gains rush during the turn. So going back to the 4 Dawn turn that I was talking about, let's say on a 4 Dawn turn, you actually don't have any bodies on the field. You don't have that Odin. You go ahead with 2 Dawn and you play this Odin down. You reveal 2 events for both the activate main on the Odin and also your Silver's Rayleigh leader to make this character 7,000 power on the turn that it's played. Since this is Roger Pirates, this 2-drop Shanks can be used for your other 2 Dawns, so you can be aggressive and be swinging with that Odin on the turn that it's played since it gains rush. This can combo well with a ton of other good cards. Just wanted to give you that example right there, but I do like this card in Silver's Rayleigh. Now, this Shanks could be really nice for just Shanks decks overall as a 4 Emperor red-haired pirate character. It is a 4/6 blocker. Very nice card in your hand. But on top of that, when your opponent attacks once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to give a leader or character minus 2,000 power for the turn. Effectively, this is really, really nice, right? You talk about Shanks and a lot of times they just brick up, right? You've seen the memes online about Shanks having 10 cards in hand and only 1K counter out of those 10 cards, right? So this would effectively be able to make any one of the cards in your hand essentially a 2K. It's not exactly a 2K, but being able to minus 2,000 as well as having a leader effect that can minus 1,000 more can really help out with some of those early game numbers, especially as a 4/6 as well. Especially with that stat line of 4/6, it's actually really nice to have that alongside the blocker and also this extra 2K in hand effect. This Jinbei right here is a 3-cost 4,000 power 1K counter Fishman Sun Pirates type, which is nice because I don't actually know how many Fishman or Sun Pirates red cards we have in the format. It has an on-play effect of revealing 2 events from your hand, so synergizes really well with the Silver's Rayleigh. This character gains rush during the turn, and then until the end of your opponent's end phase or the end of your opponent's turn, this character also gains 1,000 power. So it's basically a 3/5 rush with counter, right? Again, you got those 2 events in hand that are really prevalent in a lot of these other kind of cards for Silver's Rayleigh. This is basically like an OP01 3-cost Zoro. Now, the downside is it is Fishman and Sun Pirates, so it's not essentially searchable with some of the other stuff that we have, right? But there's a couple other cards in here that I definitely want to talk about that can really help out this in terms of the Rogers Pirates deck. But first, let's talk about Douglas Bullet, 2K Vanilla for the film package, and also former Rogers Pirates. You've got another Vanilla, this 5/7 Duval. Now, Buggy, similar to the 2-cost Shanks, this 2-cost Buggy also has an on-play effect, giving one of your Roger Pirates characters other than Buggy blocker until the end of your opponent's next turn. I like this card as well in the Silver's Rayleigh decks, right? Or just decks that have a lot of Roger's Pirates cards, because it gives you a little bit of flexibility, right? Just being able to have another blocker on field can be so valuable in a lot of situations. And especially with 2 Dawn, your opponent may not know if you're going to give something rush or blocker at certain points. We got Hotshot in here as a 1-cost Fishman former Arlong crew. This has an activate main of resting this character and revealing 2 event cards in your hand. Like I mentioned earlier, probably works well in Silver's Rayleigh. You can give up to 2 rested Dawn cards to one of your leader or characters, so reutilizing a lot of Dawn, right? You can only have small bodies on the field, so being able to bring back some of that Dawn to get extra power on your field for a lot of your small guys can really be advantageous in a lot of different situations. Now, our first SR, I believe, in this set, Boa Hancock, 2-cost 3,000 power, has 2 different effects, one an activate main and one on an on-play. On-play, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, grab a Monkey D. Luffy or a red event, and add it to your hand, which is really nice as another searcher for the deck. But you can also use the activate main to put the character in the trash and give 2 rested Dawn on a leader or character. This could be interesting to be able to fill up your hand but also utilize the Dawn. It's essentially a net zero kind of card, especially because you can potentially have a wide board later in the game, only being able to produce small bodies on the field. You could go ahead, play this down, do some searching, swing with it later, and then instead of playing over it, you could just use the activate main to reutilize Dawn. It's a really interesting card. This Luffy, though, another SR in the set, I think is really nice. This is a Supernova Straw Hat Crew card, 4-cost, 4,000 power, +1 on the counter. Now, this card has an ongoing effect of if you have 2 or more Dawn attached to this character, he gains an additional +2,000 power. So if on your turn you have 2 Dawn attached to this Luffy, on the offensive side, he is set actually as an 8,000 power character, and on the defensive side, he's set as a 6,000 power character, right? On the defense, after your turn ends, the Dawn doesn't move away. I know some people take the Dawn off to kind of clear the board and make things easier to see for their opponents. Technically, you aren't supposed to do that within the game. Just something for you people if you're newer to the game or maybe you didn't know that rule. You're supposed to leave the Dawn on your characters, and that's how this is a 6,000 power character on the defense. That is already pretty valuable, especially when you can reveal 2 events from your leader and just give this guy an additional 2,000 power, right? Being a 4-cost 10,000 power swing with just 2 Dawn investment. That's pretty crazy in my opinion. But he also has an on-play effect of revealing 2 event cards in hand, and if you do, you can play a red character card with 3,000 power or less from your hand onto the field, and then grant a rested Dawn to one of your leader or characters. This is really good. This is instantly an addition into the Silver's Rayleigh deck, but also really just a good card in general, I feel like. Even if for something like a traditional Zoro build, right, you're not necessarily doing the 2 revealed events on play thing, just being able to have this card in Zoro, for example. You play this on the field, it ends up sticking, and now you're in your next turn. You're on a 6 Dawn turn. Attach 1 to leader, attach 2 active Dawn to your Luffy, and he's sitting at a 9,000 power stat line, especially on the offensive, which is literally insane, right? That's so much value in this, especially with 1K counter. It's not going to be a brick in your hand. I think this card is just generally good. Now let's go into the different events that we've got in this set, and for this color, we've got the event that roughly translates into not doubting is strength. This is a 0-cost event, former Rogers Pirates, cost of 0. Now you're going to see this a lot with these red events, especially that there's a lot of 0-cost events in this set, but with the 0-cost events, they actually have different effects on top of that, including this first one. You can use this event on the main phase, and if you do, you actually have to give 2 active Dawn to one of your Silver's Rayleigh. Now, the thing about this as well is this can be any Silver's Rayleigh, right? This can be the 8-cost Silver's Rayleigh, this could be the 5-cost blocker Silver's Rayleigh, or the leader's Silver's Rayleigh. It's just any Silver's Rayleigh. With that Silver's Rayleigh that you gave the Dawn to, your opponent can't activate blocker during the turn if this card attacks. So you gave 2 active Dawn to the Silver's Rayleigh 8-cost on the field and then swung with it. That's a 10,000 power unblockable attack. Giving unblockable is really good, but you can also use the 0-cost event on the counter side, and if you do, you just give up to one of your Silver's Rayleighs plus 2,000 power for the battle. And again, that can be the leader, that could be a character. There's a lot of flexibility with this card. Observation Hockey, a card that we've seen for a while now, one of the more first revealed cards, I think, for this set, also is a 0-cost event, but just has one effect on it. If you give one of your Silver's Rayleigh an active Dawn card, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and reveal a red event or character card with a cost of 3 or more added to your hand. Put the rest at the bottom in any order. Now, this seems kind of weird, at least in a Silver's Rayleigh deck, right? Because that really kind of limits the amount of cards you see, right? You can't grab the 1-cost Searcher, for example, that we talked about earlier, that Amazon Lily Searcher, or the Boa Hancock, right? Cost 2. So you're really just limited to the 3 and 4 cost different events and characters that you may run. So this seems kind of niche, but still can be very valuable, right? This could be something that helps find your 4-cost Luffy's, even though you have pretty good search, I feel like, for the 4-cost Luffy's. Conqueror's Hockey, another 0-cost event. This is a rare 0-cost event. Just is a counter event, but on this counter event that has essentially 2 different functions alongside of it. The first part of this, which will always happen, is one of your characters or Silver's Rayleigh gets 2,000 power during the battle. So this can be used on the leader or just one of the characters. After that, if you rest one of your Dawn, you can do all of your opponent's leaders and characters minus 1,000 power during the turn. Especially in the specific battle, this could be a rest 1 Dawn 3,000 power difference, essentially, which is really good, I feel like, in a lot of different situations, and especially when it's the later stages of the game and maybe your opponent has a very wide board. If they have 5 characters on the field, this is effectively a plus 8,000 power difference, right? 2,000 power during a battle and minus 1,000 on the leader or character that you're battling is 3, and then with 5 characters on the field all getting minus 1,000, that's 8 in total. This can be so powerful in the late game, I feel like. Now, we have this hockey, which is translated to Arament, or is just called Buso Shoku, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm not this far in the anime. Is another 2 different situation event card, 0 cost. You can use this on the main to give one of your Silver's Rayleigh an active Dawn card, so essentially paying 1 Dawn to give a leader or character plus 1,000 power during the turn. Especially since you're giving a Silver's Rayleigh an active Dawn card, it's basically like doing 2,000 in a sense. But as a counter event, you could just give a Silver's Rayleigh plus 2,000 power during the battle. This is the last one of the event cards, and if you notice, they're all 0. And a lot of them as well give power for just being a 0 cost, right? We've seen the 0 cost events in all the colors basically be trash 1 card, get 3,000 power. Now we're starting to see 0 costs, don't pay anything, don't have to trash anything, get 2,000 power, but if you want to pay a Dawn in some form or fashion, you can get some other effect, right? You can get another plus 1,000, you can minus 1,000. These 0 cost events are so cool within the game, in my opinion, and really add another factor into countering or maybe your on-play strategy. I feel like these events are really interesting. I don't know how good they're gonna be, but similar to how the 2 cost music events came out in EBO2, right, which were very cool and very interesting. I think that these zero cost events fit that same style. So now we'll move into our second color and second leader in Zoro, right? This 5 life, 5000 power green Supernova Straw Hat Crew leader has only one effect, but the effect, in my opinion, is quite interesting and can be good with the right support. If you have 3 Dawn attached to this leader, you can activate main once per turn. Now, essentially, you can use this event. It's almost like when attacking, but you can use this on the defensive side, which I don't really know why you would use this on the defensive side, but there might be some niche situations. During this turn, if this leader is battling an opponent's character, activate this leader. After that, during this turn, this leader cannot attack an opponent's character with an original cost of 7 or less. While you're in a battle with a character, right, to kind of start the turn, you can restand this Zoro to then be able to go at leader later and get 2 swings for the price of 1. I really like this in the early game, right, because especially when you have 1 cost searchers that do that activate main rest, like Jewelry Bonnie is the prime example that I think of right now. Maybe Blackbeard Lafitte. It really stinks on like a 4 Dawn turn and you don't really have anything to play to just like use your leader swing and swing at the Lafitte. Well, with this Zoro effect, you can go in, attach 3 of your 4 Dawn, or maybe on a 3 Dawn turn, just attach all 3 onto this Zoro, swing at the Lafitte, and then restand and then later just go at lead. It's a really interesting way to clear board, especially in the early game. And we'll talk about some characters here shortly that maybe really help you out with this effect, especially because you can attack characters with an original cost of 7 or less for the rest of the turn after that restand. It's basically a lot of times just swinging at leader afterwards, which is very valuable, I think. Now you have Ipponmatsu, which is funnily translated to one pine if you use like Google Translate. But this 3 cost wisdom character with a 1k counter, if your leader has the attribute slash and you have 6 or more Dawn cards that are rested, this character cannot be put into rested by your opponent's effects and has blocker. So especially later in the game, right, we've started to see a lot of these different effects with purple decks, especially in the 3 cost Usohachi. In a Zoro deck, especially in this green OP12 Zoro, let's just say in the late game you go double blocker, play 2 of these guys down, right, rest 3 Dawn twice, that's 6 rested Dawn cards. And so in Usohachi, right, to be able to rest one of these Ipponmatsus will not actually work. You will be guaranteed essentially in that situation to be able to block with these guys. This is definitely a way to combat something like Usohachi and also just purple decks in general, purple Luffy, Straw Hat Crew type decks. So I really like this addition. The only thing is, as a wisdom 3 cost East Sea or East Blue, it might be a little bit difficult to find in your Zoro deck. Now this is Inu Arashi. That's so difficult to say. Now this is a Minx Land of Wano Akaza 9 type character, 6 cost 7000 power with a 1k counter, with an activate main of resting the character. Up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 5 or less will not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. This is nice carrot support in my opinion, right? Especially as an activate main. You can use this on the turn that it's played against something like Blackbeard, right? Because what you had before was like carrot that you had to wait to when it attacked because Blackbeard probably turned off your carrots on play effect. Now you just have it with the activate main. This is pretty nice in my opinion, especially for carrot support. Nice to see carrot support in OP12. We have Kawamatsu, 2k vanilla from Wano Country, Akaza 9, Fishman. Now Gyukimaru, 4 cost 5000 power 1k counter. This is an animal Land of Wano type character that's also slash. This has an ongoing effect of when this character is active, it cannot be KO'd by opponent's effects. So especially against black decks or really any any sort of card that has KO removal, something like red, this is going to stick on the field. But when attacking, if your total number of Don cards attached is 3 or more, you can rest a character of 6 or less on the original cost. Now, one of the things that I find is very interesting, I really like this card, right? For the Land of Wano crew, 6 costs or less blockers is very prevalent, so to be able to counter that while also sticking on the field a lot of times as you're playing is really nice for the late game, especially because you attach 3 Dawn to this, you'll be swinging 8,000 power. It is not an easy thing to counter out of. Kinemon, a vanilla 6/8. Now, Kuina. This is a card that we've also known about for a while. 4 cost, 1,000 power, 1k counter. This slash character has an activate main of putting the character into rested. Not only will you be able to rest one of your opponent's characters with an original cost of 4 or less, but after you do that, you can grant 3 rested cards to your Zoro leader. This is very obvious support for the new OP12 Zoro leader, right? Being able to have great synergy with that leader effect. There's a pesky character that has come onto the field. Well, on a 4 Dawn turn, you can play the Kuina rested, attach 3 Dawn to your Zoro, and rest that pesky 4-cost character like 4-cost Kuzan maybe, and then immediately swing 8,000 power into it with your Zoro leader to then restand and swing 8,000 power lead later. This is a really nice card. I think Zoro's really gonna like this, and you could have guessed probably will play several copies of it. Koshiro, I think is how you pronounce this 2-cost 1k counter East Blue Shimotsuki Village kind of character. If a character with a attribute slash of 5 or less cost other than this character is KO'd by an opponent's effect, you can rest this character instead, and he's a little 2-drop blocker. Since primarily your deck, I think in Zoro, is going to be slash type characters, this is a really good protection effect, right? Something like Rosinante, Tashigi, to be able to keep one of your characters safe. Really like this card. Now, we've got a 1-drop Hiyori with an activate main of resting a Dawn and this character, right? So similar to the Bonnies and Lafitte's that I was talking about earlier, a 1-drop searcher that rests itself in another Dawn. If your leader is Zoro, so very specific to the Zoro deck, you look at the top 5 cards and reveal a attribute slash or green event from your deck and put it in your hand. Again, this is kind of what I was talking about where Zoro is probably mostly all slash. Even though your Kuinas and stuff are not Supernova Straw Hat Crew types, they're all slash type characters that can be easily found off of this 1-cost Hiyori. This will help you get a lot of good synergy within your deck. Now, we've got a Shimotsuki Kozaburo, 3-cost 2k counter slash type character, right? Easily searchable to be a 2k. Wano Country, East Blue, Shimotsuki Village. If you want to play this down though, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, then KO one of your opponent's rested characters with an original cost of 1 or less. This is a nice late game to be able to just rest a chum blocker. We talked about this a lot in the last couple sets, how there's a lot of like 2-cost blockers running around in the format. So this is another good way to rest it. Now, this Mihawk is really what's made a lot of noise for not only Zoro decks, but just green decks in general. Now, this Mihawk is a green slash 8-cost 8,000 power Muggy Kingdom 7 Warlords type. To start with, it's a blocker, 8-cost blocker, very nice for the late game. But on the on play, you can set up 4 of your Dawn as active, effectively making this Mihawk a 4-cost character in the late game. The flip side to that is, if you're at a 10 Dawn turn, for example, and you play down this Mihawk, restanding 4, you've got 6 Dawn to work with, and with something like Cavendish in Bonnie decks, you can restand 2 Dawn with the when attacking to have 8 active Dawn left in the turn. The downside to this, though, is you can't just go in and play a 7-cost character or higher on the rest of the turn, so you can't just like slam down Hody Jones. I think this is a pretty balanced card. I think that this is still a pretty good card in something like Zoro, especially with restanding 4 Dawn cards. You'll still be able to use leader effect, right? You can attach a lot of those Dawns to your Zoro leader and you swing 8,000 power, use leader effect, swing again at lead, or even in something like Bonnie, right? Bonnie can really utilize this card, or just green decks in general to be able to reutilize that Dawn for any specific thing. This is going to be a really good and playable SR for just green decks in general. We've got a new Slash Tashigi as well, 5/7 stat line, East, Blue, and Navy, with an on-play effect. Put up to one of your opponent's characters with the original cost of 6 or less into rested. Afterwards, give 3 rested Dawn cards to a Zoro leader. So, really nice, right? With an on-play of 5, you know that you're going to be resting 5. So, this is another good, really synergistic card for your Zoro deck to be able to have a character that you can immediately swing into on curve and use leader effect to attack with lead. I really like a lot of these additions to the Zoro deck. You've got Nekomamushi, Vanilla 2K. Helmeppo, another Slash character, is an East Blue Navy type with blocker, but when blocking, you can put one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 5 or less into rested. I really like this. This is really reminiscent of the Black Hina from like set 2, or I think it's like Pedro, right? Pedro the Minx has a similar effect to where like on an on block or something that is an extra effect as well as blocking that you can interact with other characters on the field. This is a cute card for the deck. It is a non-counter card, and so although is valuable, I'm not sure whether or not you include it. It's a 4 cost and also doesn't have a way to stop being rested itself, so the later stages of the game it's a little less valuable, but I think this is a cool card. The downside is it has to block in order to get the second effect. Now Perona is going to be a nice second searcher for the Zoro decks, right? Not only do you have the Hiyori, but now this Perona, because if your leader has a Slash attribute, you can look at the top 5 cards to grab a Slash type character or a green vet and add it to your hand. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is this Perona is a special type of character and the Hiyori is a wisdom type of character, I believe. So one of the interesting things about the Zoro deck is all of these searchers can't find each other. You can't just like search for a searcher and then continue searching for searcher, which I find to be kind of interesting, right? Especially because the Hiyori, usually with those 1-drops that search, they can usually find themselves, if anything. Morgan, Vanilla. This Zoro has an ongoing text as a 4/5 1k counter Supernova Straw Hat Crew Slash type character. This card in your hand cannot be played by an effect. So, with something like the Dracula Mihawk from Starter Deck 12, you actually can't play this card off of that Mihawk. But if you do play this down on curve or something like that, and your leader has the attribute Slash, this card gains an additional 1000 power to be a 4/6 body and can't be KO'd by any other cards with the attribute Slash. So in the mirror match, this is actually probably really good. Now, moving on to the green events, we have a 1-cost green event rare that has 2 different effects on it. I'll just go with the translation that I'm giving because it's pretty long. Demonic Spirit, 9-sword style, Azora Sword Dancing, Ghost Play. This is a Straw Hat Crew 1-cost event card that has 2 different effects. One with a main event. If you rest 3 other Dawn cards, you can actually rest 2 of your opponent's Dawn. But if you want to use this as a 1-cost counter event, you gain 3000 power. I really like this event card. I think that this is a really cool counter to something like Gum Gum Giant or really anything else that could potentially have counter events. And if anything, it's just really nice to gain 3000 power. We've kind of seen that lately with a lot of other 1-cost double effect kind of events. So kind of fits the rhythm that One Piece has been printing lately. There's also another 1-cost green event in here with a main of resting 2 other Dawn cards. So effectively 3. If you rest 2 other Dawn, you can KO 2 different characters with an original cost of 4 or less. Think about this not only with the matchup of Silver's Rayleigh that we've seen in this set, but other decks that are popular in the OP11 Eastern format and eventually the West, right? Like Red Zoro and Bello Betty, decks that swarm these little bodies on the field and overwhelm you with so much so fast. This is a really good way to clear a lot of those bodies without having to swing at them. I really like this event, and it's also a 1-cost 3000 power counter event. Now, Luffy is the man who will become the Pirate King, is essentially your I'm invincible for Zoro. This is a 3-cost main, activate your leader, Zoro. Really good for the late game if you've ever played against starter deck 11 Uta, and can be very valuable when going for lethal. This also has a trigger though of up to one of your leader characters gains 1,000 power during the turn. I think that this is literally the exact same as the I'm invincible with both the effect and trigger. Now, kicking off blue, we have the leader Kuzan. Now, Kuzan is a 5-life Navy type leader, 5,000 power, that has an ongoing effect. So this is any time in the game. It's either your turn, your opponent's turn, anytime when cards are discarded from your hand due to an effect of a card with a Navy trait, draw the same number of cards as those discarded. So, for example, we're going to talk a lot about some Navy cards that have like trash this for an extra effect. Something like Suru, right? If you're going to play down OP06, Suru, right, trash 2 cards from your hand to return a character to the opponent's hand. Because Suru is a Navy type card, you would be able to draw 2 after trashing 2 cards from your hand. You have to trash the 2 before you draw 2, right? Make sure you do proper sequencing. But if you use something like Gum Gum Giant Gavel, right, where you trash 1 card from hand and get plus 4,000, you will not off Kuzan be able to draw off of it, right? Because this is an East Blue Straw Hat card. This is a really interesting leader in my opinion, especially with a color that really likes to draw, that has the potential to enact some bodies like Suru that I just talked about, but also something like Arumaki. A lot of people have been theorizing that that card could be good in Kuzan because it's Navy and you have that trash effect. There's not a lot of Navy support that actually has this kind of effect outside of this set, so the viability of the leader is really dependent on what is in the set right now, I think. But before we get into the support for OP12 Kuzan, we first got to talk about the other blue leader or partially blue leader in this set, Sanji. This is a 4-life blue-purple leader, Vinsmoke family and Straw Hat crew. Just another saga in the purple Straw Hat crew type leaders. This leader has 2 different effects. One is on that activate main. Once per turn, you can don -1, and if you do, you can activate up to 1 Straw Hat crew type event card from your hand with an original cost of 3 or less. So if you have a 3-cost Straw Hat event card that you can use on your main phase, basically you can don ×1, and that is your cost for playing that event card. Especially with a lot of great purple events as of late in the Straw Hat typing, specifically thinking of stuff like Gear 2. This is already a really interesting start for this leader. It also has a when attacking effect of if the number of Dawn on your field is equal to or less than the number of Dawn in your opponent's field, you can add up 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it, essentially giving you a when attacking ramp effect. You can honestly do an idea to where you can use an event of 3 or lower every single turn with leader effect. Use that when attacking to just ramp that Dawn right back. It's very reminiscent, I feel like, of something like the OP11 Katakuri, right? Where you're constantly going backwards a Dawn and then bringing it right back through your different characters or different other effects. Especially because the purple Straw Hat typing has been so good, a lot of people are really curious about this leader and how its influence will be in the game, not only from just the broken stuff that's in the format right now, but also in the stuff that's coming in this set, especially since it has the mix of the Vinsmoke family, right? You talk about Reiju, another blue-purple leader. There may be even some pieces from that section of the game that could get transferred into this. But not Kuzan or Straw Hat Crew or Vinsmoke family at all. Alvida is a new 4-cost for the Cross Guild typing that's coming into this game. 1k counter on it, 4-cost, 5,000 power. Has an ongoing effect similar to Kuzan, to where if you have 2 or more characters with an original cost of 5 or more, this character's cost is increased by 1. This is pretty easy in something like Buggy, I feel like, right? Buggy being able to cheat out bodies onto the field. This Alvida, more often than not, I feel like, is going to have that +1 cost to be a 5 cost, and when played, place up to one of your opponent's characters with an original cost of 1 or less to the bottom of their owner's deck. This isn't necessarily like incredible in my opinion. It's not like an It's not a great on-play effect, but especially when you talk about characters that rest sideways through activate mains like Lafitte or Jewelry Bonnie or something like that, it does have a nice niche situation to where you could just play this Alvida down to bottom deck one of those and you don't have to swing at it with like leader or something like that. Mostly it's just nice for that increased cost if you want to play it in a buggy deck. Now Kuzan is a nice character for the OP12 Kuzan decks. This 6 cost 8,000 power. Also has an ongoing text of if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, this character's cost is increased by 1. Especially with the potential draw that you can have with the OP12 Kuzan leader. I've watched a couple games of people's lists with the Kuzan deck, and it's very frequent that you actually have a good amount of cards in hand, especially 5 or more. I feel like a lot of times, except maybe late game, you'll be able to have 5 or more cards than hand. But you have an on-play effect of trashing 1 card from your hand, and if you do, up to one of your opponent's characters cannot attack until the end of their next end phase. Now, this Kuzan also has a on-play effect of if you trash a card from your hand, up to one of your opponent's characters cannot attack until the end of their next turn. This effect is what really is a staple for Kuzan in this OP12 Kuzan deck, because with your leader effect, this on-play effect is basically for free. It is a free filter effect. Trash a card that you don't need from your hand and then draw another one with that leader Kuzan. You definitely play at least 3 of these. I would honestly play 4, especially because this is literally like a 10-drop Blackbeard effect, right? Sure, you don't get rid of the blocker part, but in ramp decks, especially like blue-purple Luffy, for 6 Dawn, you can go ahead and shut off one of their big bodies on the field. And then because you're an 8,000 power character, you have a really good shot of being able to compete with like the leader or different characters on the field when you're able to attack. This is a great card in my opinion. Sakazuki is also a really nice card with that on-play effect of if your leader has the Navy typing, you can draw 2 cards. Just a raw draw 2. It's a net 1 card for the 7 cost 8,000 power character, but it also has that activate main of trashing 1 card from hand and giving a rested Dawn to a leader or character. In combination with that on-play effect, this Sakazuki is literally play 1 down, draw 3, and trash 1. Although it costs 1 more than that Kuzan to play, think about on like an even curve, playing Kuzan and then Sakazuki. Just extremely powerful overall, and being able to reutilize a Dawn is going to be able to give you so much value right on blue. Not only are you going to be able to hand cycle, but also you're going to be able to give a rested Dawn. Already, these 2 cards in itself give so much value, and we have more to talk about with Navy typing. This Django is just a 6/8 vanilla character. Zephyr is a 5 cost 5,000 power 2K that has 2 different effects. One, an on play of trashing 2 cards from your hand, which could be nice, right? Especially because we just talked about Kuzan's leader effect. You could just draw those 2 right back. If you want to use the activate main though, you can put that character in the trash and return a cost of 5 or less character to the owner's hand. I personally think I like the Suru a little bit better as a Navy 2K, right? Because you can kind of keep that body on the field to be able to swing with later, but in a format where Blackbeard could be pretty prevalent, right? With the upcoming starter decks beefing it up a little bit, this could be something that you could play instead, just simply because it has an activate main which can get around Blackbeard negating your on play effects. It's also good to note that this is a blue film type card as well. Sengoku, this 3 cost 1k counter of 3,000 power, has an on play effect of you can discard 1 card from your hand. You can look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You can reveal up to 2 cards with the Navy typing and put them in your hand, put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. If you feel like your deck needs a little bit more searches instead of just raw drawing in general, you can go ahead and place this Sengoku in your deck and be able for 3 to grab 2 cards off of that top 5, right? But then after you fulfill that on play effect, because you trashed a card in order to get this effect, you can draw an extra card off of that Kuzan leader effect. It's a really good rare in my opinion, which I think I've seen a couple people just not put this card in their deck. They just would rather have like the Tashigi the 1-drop be present, and it kind of makes sense in my opinion, especially because this Sengoku being a 3000 power character is not necessarily like a viable attacker, I feel like, at 5000. If this was a 4000 power character, I could totally see it, but at 3000, it might just be a little bit too low to not provide enough value for a lot of people. But the meta could change to where this could be good. I would just have this in your back pocket if you're looking at playing Kuzan at all, because even though it's not very good now, this could be good later. We've also got this Navy Rosinante 1-drop. This has an on your opponent's turn. If a blue character with a Navy trait leaves the field due to your opponent's effects, you can rest this character instead and trash 1 card in your hand. This is essentially Kuzan's protection effect, right? Similar to something like the 3-drop Tashigi. If your opponent plays something like Red Rock, for example, God Thread, something popular in blue-purple Luffy, you could instead just rest this character, and then when you trash that 1 card from your hand, spoiler alert, if you haven't caught on, that Kuzan leader effect will activate. So not only do you get to keep that character on the field, but you get to filter a card in your hand. Pretty good, I feel like. Buggy is a cross-guild 2K vanilla character, which could actually be nice, right? It's a character you can cheat out. It's a searchable 2K. 7000 power is pretty respectable. You might just want to have this uncommon. Haguwaru di Saruro? I don't know this character, but this is a Navy 6-cost 7000 power blocker. 1K counter. Not anything crazy about it. I like that the automatic Google translation on the website has made Hina just chick. But anyways, this 3-cost 3000 power Hina is a 2K counter, but has an activate main of putting this character into rest and trashing 1 card from your hand. If you do, not only do you get to draw a card off leader effect right after, but up to one of your opponent's characters with an original cost of 4 or less cannot activate blocker during the turn. This can be a good card in Kuzan. We're starting to see this more and more in the game, where all of these colors are getting some sort of nullify blocker effect in a sense, right? We see it with Hongo, we see Teach turning off blocker statuses, or even Black Hole, Usohachi resting a blocker. The Hina is just going to be the navy blue version of turning off a blocker, making sure that you get a little bit easier going for lethal. Full body, 4-cost 6000 power vanilla 1K. Borsalino is a 4-cost 5000 power character with a 1K counter. It's got on that text once per turn. If this character leaves the field due to an opponent's effect, you can trash 1 card from your hand instead, which with Kuzan would allow you to filter because you draw 1. And then on your opponent's turn, if your leader has the characteristic Navy type, which you do in OP12 Kuzan, this character gains blocker and 1000 power. So very similar to the black Borsalino that we saw in OP02, which was so good for a long time. Now we've got a new Borsalino, which essentially has that same power-up effect on the opponent's turn and is a blocker as well. But this protection effect also allows you to just filter from your opponent's hand, and more often than not, the deck that you're playing against isn't going to have 2 removal effects in the same turn. I mean, this card is just really good, I feel like. Now, we've got a new 1-drop for the 7 Warlords of the Sea type package, and also this Teach, being a Blackbeard pirate, has the on-play of if your leader has the character trait of 7 Warlords of the Sea, you can return up to 1 other character with a cost of 1 or less to the owner's hand. I don't think this helps Dofi at all. Moji and Kabaji is a vanilla 2K, right? 5/6 is their stat line. And Garp, the first SR, I think, of blue, if my memory is correct, 8-cost 8000 power stat line. Has an on play of you can trash 1 card from your hand, and if you do, you can play up to 1 character card other than Monkey D. Garp with a power of 8000 or less that has the blue characteristic Navy. So think about on an 8 Dawn turn, playing down a Garp and then throwing down something like the Kuzan, right? To nullify an opponent's character, make sure they can't attack, or maybe even a Sakazuki on the field, right? To draw a ton of cards and reutilize a Dawn. This Garp allows you to swarm the field, and as an 8000 power body, it's pretty respectable in general. And playing an 8000 power character, I feel like, is so strong. I'm really curious to see how Kuzan is relevant in the meta, especially later this week or next week. I'm going to be showing you a lot of Kuzan lists that I'm seeing Eastern players play that are either having some sort of success or just ones that I feel like are pretty interesting to talk about. Going on to the events of blue, we've got this 1-cost Navy event. Ice Chunk Pheasant Beak, I think is what it's translated as, at least on here. I don't know if it's official, but has a counter of up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters gets 4,000 power during the battle. Then you trash 1 card from your hand. Reminder that with Kuzan's event, it's not just exclusive to characters. So with that event, you're going to be able to draw 1 and continue filter. Not only become a 9,000 power leader, but also just filter. Now, one of the I think this is the biggest event that we have in One Piece. I will make Whitebeard King. This is a main event of if your leader has the Whitebeard Pirates trait, you can reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If that card is a character that has the Whitebeard Pirates trait and it's a cost of 9 or less, you can play it and give it rush during the turn. Especially in something like Marco, right? Where you can, on a 10 Dawn turn, use 1 Dawn to manipulate the top of your deck and then use this event to be able to play that character down and give it rush. Opens up a lot of possibilities if you want to go ahead and play this card, especially if that card of 9 or less that you're playing has a when attacking effect that is extremely valuable. I don't see this card really being utilized unless it is specifically a 9 cost. It seems a little weird to try to use this card when it's not a 9 cost, like if it's like 7 or less, unless you have some sort of way also like Monet or whatever to be able to reutilize Dawn that you use or Marshall D. Teach. But I think it could be something to have in your back pocket. Now, Course Crushing is a 1-drop event for the Sky Island Straw Hat Crew typing, which interesting that it's Sky Island Blue. I don't know if we really have any Sky Island Blue stuff, but the text has 2 different effects, right? Another one of these 1-cost events or just different events that have 2 different options on your turn or your opponent's turn. If you use it on the main phase, you can just draw 1 card if your leader is Sanji, which, by the way, with the Sanji leader effect, you can Dawn -1 after maybe playing something down and have some rested Dawn. Play this for free and just draw a card. Replace it in your hand. But if you want to use it as a counter event, for 1 cost, if you have 4 or more events in your trash, up to one of your leaders gets 4,000 power during the battle. It's specific to note that similar to Gum Gum Giant Gavel, right, in blue that I showed you earlier in this video, this is specifically only for your leader. It's not for characters. You can't counter out with this on characters. Beef Burst is a 3-cost rare event in this deck. Has a main effect that you can choose 2 different things. If your leader is multicolored, you can choose one of the following of either returning an opponent's character if it costs a 4 or less to the owner's hand, or if you have 6 or less cards in hand, draw 2 cards. Especially with your leader effect of going Dawn -1 to just play this out for free. This can be a net 1 card off the draw, similar to that 1-cost event that we just talked about, or it could be a great removal event, right? Bouncing a blocker back, bouncing a pesky character that's giving you a lot of problems. There's a lot of flexibility with this card, and I really enjoy this. This card also might be decent in other blue Straw Hat kind of decks, right? Because this is essentially like a Sanji's Pilaf, right? If you have 6 or less cards in hand, which I don't know, might be valuable. Sanji's Pilaf is a good card. But now going into purple cards, we've got Don Quixote Rosinante. This is a Navy Don Quixote Pirates mixed type leader, 4 life, 5,000 power. Has 2 different effects. One is a once per turn. If one of your Trafalgar Laws are KO'd, you can add 1 card from the top of your life to your hand instead. This is any time that a Trafalgar Law is KO'd, by the way. This can be in a battle. This can be from an opponent's effect, like a black deck, reducing the cost and KOing it. And it's going to be really curious on how often you utilize that, right? Especially because you're a 4-life leader, so life can get pretty low pretty fast. And if you've got more time to heal, right? Constantly being able to heal yourself to be able to use this leader effect more. But on an activate main once per turn, if you Dawn -1, during your turn, the next Trafalgar Law that you play from hand with the cost of 4 or more will cost 2 less to play. This is really interesting, right? Especially with cards like the 7 cost Secret Rare Trafalgar Law. You can now play that card for 5. With that 7 cost being a 5 on your 5 Dawn turn, you can go ahead and put a Supernova card into your life, which oftentimes is maybe another Trafalgar Law, or we just know that there's a ton of great Supernova cards that we've seen in like purple and yellow, and they don't necessarily have to be named Trafalgar Law. I know a lot of people are really curious about this leader. I think this leader may not be the strongest right out of the gate in the format, but especially because Straw Hats are typically Supernovas, and we'll definitely see more get printed in the game consistently. This might be one of those guys that as time goes on and gets more cards in the format, develops a little bit more, he could be like a sneaky rogue option that like kind of steals the show in a tournament. We also know that the Don Quixote Pirates type has gotten a ton of support already, especially in recent sets like OP10, so there's an opportunity also to kind of slide some of those cards in the deck to try to boost up this leader. I'm really curious on builds of what this will look like. I think this is the leader that I've seen the least amount in terms of like gameplay videos and stuff. I'm going to be trying to study this a lot in the next week. Vinsmoke Sora is getting a new 2K card in this set. Germa Kingdom and Vinsmoke Family has an on-play effect of if your leader is Sanji and the number of Dawn to your field is equal or less to the number of Dawn in your opponent's field, you can add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck rested and draw 1 card. I wouldn't think about this in Reiju, right, because of the effect being that your leader needs to be Sanji, but with Sanji, if you have a big package of like Germa Kingdom, Vinsmoke Family to find different pieces, this could potentially be a searchable 2K and also a card that just replaces itself and re-ramps you after using leader effect and stuff. I'm really curious to see if this will be in Sanji decks, because the thing about Sanji is I don't know how much events you add into your deck, right? Because events feel like a huge part of your deck with your leader effect, but also different characters. It'll be really curious, and we'll go over more of the purple cards that you could potentially put in a Sanji deck, especially this Reiju. This Reiju SR, which is probably going to have a banger alternate art, I think. I don't remember it off the top of my head if we've seen it or not, but I'm sure it'll be incredible. This 4 cost 5,000 power Vinsmoke Family Germa 66 character with a 1K counter has an ongoing effect of that if you have 4 or more events in your trash, this character gets plus 2,000 power and 5 cost on top of it, as well as being a blocker all the time. The blocker part is all the time. It's not conditional. But especially in a deck like Sanji, having a 4 cost 7,000 power character that you can play on the field can be so good, especially when that cost after it's played on the field becomes a 9 cost. It can be so hard to remove by effects, especially on like a 4 Dawn turn. This card could also be a really interesting tech option in something like the Reiju deck. I don't know if you would play any more than like 1 of this, but especially because you could have 1-drop searcher events or Gamma Knife or something like that in your deck, Black Bug. There may be an opportunity that Reiju could have 4 cards in the trash, especially there may be a situation where Reiju could have 4 event cards in the trash in the late game. So I don't really know that I believe this in Reiju, especially since OP11 got like the new Reiju and the new Ichiji and the new 2Ks and stuff like that. But just have this card with you, and it's probably good in Sanji. Virgo is a vanilla 5/7 1K counter in the Punk Hazard, Navy, and Don Quixote Pirates typing. Emporio Ivankov boosts the Impel Down in Revolutionary Army purple types as a 6 cost 7,000 power character. If you have 4 more event cards in your trash, this character gains blocker and has an on KO effect of when it is KO'd, add up to 1 event card from your trash to your hand. It feels like that this was kind of included for potentially something like Sanji, but as an Impel Down Rev Army type character, I don't know if I see it, but I don't know if Impel Down type decks like Magellan, for example, play enough events to have this card. This card kind of feels like a little bit more of a setup for like future stuff, or maybe Hannibal. Does Hannibal, does he play a lot of events? I don't even know. Carne, if you have 4 or more events in your trash, this 1 cost character gains blocker, and that's it. Yeah, it's just It's just blocker. It is a East Blue type card, and especially in Sanji, even though Sanji is not an East Blue typing, having access to a 1-drop blocker that might potentially be searchable, right? We have seen plenty of blue and purple East Blue kind of cards, especially in blue. This guy might be one that you want to include, similar to what we just saw in the previous Japan Championships with Nami. Nami playing 4 1-drop blockers is just really annoying in a format like OP11 was out in the East. I find it interesting though that this 1-drop blocker is conditional in a sense, to where like you have to have the 4 event cards in trash in order to get this effect off. I think if it was just it had blocker no matter what, it would probably be an inclusion in Sanji for sure. But now is like, maybe. Carmen's also an East Blue type character. 3-cost vanilla, 5k, 1k counter. Jin is a 2k vanilla of 6/7. Hayaka-sen Serena, incredible illustration. Once again, they almost never miss, I feel like, in these like painted illustrations. Absolutely gorgeous. Is East Blue and Krieg Pirates type. To a surprise of some people, Purple Yellow Croc is getting some support in this set. This 6/8 crocodile that is 7 Warlords of the Sea and Baroque Works type has a when opponent attacks once per turn, Dawn -1 effect. If your leader has the trait that includes Baroque Works, up to one of your leader or characters get 2,000 power during the battle. So with the 8-cost crocodile, does that guy gain a life? I think you have another opportunity to do a Dawn -1 to where you get like an extra power boost. Very nice, I feel like, for the deck. I don't know how many you slot in because it is a non-counter card as well, although it could be filterable. But yeah, you could also like do a situation to where like if you have a blocker out, you could like, oh, come my way, and then do a Dawn -1 to like get that 2,000 power boost to be able to get out of an attack. It could be really interesting. I'm really curious of how much this card is played in Purple Yellow Croc. Not that I think that Purple Yellow Croc is going to be tier 1 or anything like that. Now, Sanji is a 3-cost Alabasta Kingdom and Straw Hat Crew typing, has an ongoing effect for this 3/5 brick, that this card for every 5 events in your trash gains 1,000 power. That's a lot of events that you need to get that. I mean, Jesus Burgess gains 1,000 power just simply for every 4 cards, which is insane to me that card, I mean, this is just way worse, I feel like. Especially because Burgess cannot be removed at all by your opponent's effects. But Sanji here, if it's going to leave the field due to an opponent's effect, I can Dawn -1 to keep it alive instead. I mean, honestly, it's just a worse Burgess. Right, I mean, you can play it on 3, sure. But like for every 5 event cards in your trash, you get plus 1,000 power? Come on, man. Pudding is a nice 1-drop with an on-play effect of looking at the top 4 cards of your deck, revealing a Sanji or event card, adding it to your hand, placing the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, there's 2 different things that I think of right away for this Big Mom Pirates 1-drop. The first one is Sanji, right? It kind of makes sense if the deck is going to be very heavily event-oriented. Being able to grab one of those events can be so good, right? Or maybe a Sanji. Definitely probably adds with your consistency in that archetype. But I also think kind of a little bit of Blue-Purple Luffy. I'm not sure where it would fit in Blue-Purple Luffy. Blue-Purple Luffy really revolving around ramping, especially when you have different Sanjis in the deck, like the 9-cost Sanji, the blue one, or even the purple 6-cost from OP07. You can grab like one of those or an event card with plenty of different great events within this deck. Like in the early ramp game, you could gear 2, you could find God Thread, you could find It's to Die For, but you can also grab other events like Red Rock, Gum Gum Giant. We've seen Gravity Blade, right? So this card, although I think probably knocks, if you're going to put it in the list, probably knocks down some of the tech cards like Gravity Blade. This probably has some sort of place in Blue-Purple Luffy lists. Because your events are so good and so important, this gives you like an early game play. Usually not having a 1 Dawn turn play at all. This gives you that 1 Dawn turn play to maybe potentially find gear 2 to then ramp in the next turn. It's just like an added layer of consistency a lot of times. I find this card to be very interesting, and I think it's going to be really curious on how impactful it is in the meta, specifically around the Boogeyman. Now, going back to mostly Sanji, here's an East Blue Purple card of Zeph. 4 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter. When your Don is returned to your Don deck, if your leader is Sanji, this character gains Rush during the turn. So, especially when you have a leader effect that's a really nice Don -1, if you go ahead and play this guy down, do the Don -1 to use that 1 cost event that draws a card or something like that, you could go ahead and automatically be able to rush with Zeph. It's a 5,000 power character, so as soon as it hits the field, it's liable to be able to swing. This could be nice if you need to like get somewhat aggressive, right? Especially because if you're so event oriented, playing characters, you kind of want to get immediate value on all of them because you're probably running less characters in your deck than the average One Piece deck. At least that's my thinking on it. I need to see more lists. Now, finally going back to Rocinante, we have this SR Trafalgar Law that's a 7 cost, 8,000 power character. It's also Dressrosa and Supernova. So like I was talking about earlier with the yellow Trafalgar Law secret rare, you could put this in your life if you wanted to. It doesn't have a trigger or any counter on it at all, but I mean, it could be something. When you play it though, if the number of Dawn on your field is equal to or less than the number of Dawn in your opponent's field, you can add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as an active card. And after that, all of your characters that are either Don Quixote, Rocinante, or have the characteristic Heart Pirates get 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. This will be really nice if you play a lot of Trafalgar Laws in your deck, right? Because all of your Trafalgar Laws are Heart Pirates typing, or if you kind of go into some of the Hard Pirates typing, like I think of Sachi and Penguin, like a lot of stuff that we saw in Trafalgar Law when that red purple one was running rampant in the format. This can be an interesting SR. I need to see more Hard Pirates cards, I feel like, or re-look at the Hard Pirates card pool to be able to know if there's enough purple Hard Pirates cards to where this is really relevant. It is nice though that you can play this on 5 basically because of your leader effect and then ramp a Dawn as active to be able to utilize it somewhere else. It could provide a lot of value and could be pretty good. More Sanji Patty goodness on this 3 cost 2k counter character. On play, you can trash an event card from your hand, and if your leader is Sanji, you can add up to 1 card from your Dawn deck as an active card. So the ability to re-ramp and maybe fill up your trash with event cards that you don't need to get other effects that we've talked about in some of these other previous cards could just be a really nice 2K if you have an East Blue kind of search engine. Miss All Sunday. This is a really interesting card in my opinion. Miss All Sunday is a 4 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter Baroque Works character. It has an on-play trigger of Dawn -1, but with that on play, you can KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less, and then after that, your opponent has the choice of if they want to ramp 1 Dawn as active from their Dawn deck. This is kind of, I think, one of the first, if not the first card that gives your opponent the opportunity to ramp when you do something. And I'm really curious of how this is actually going to be played. This definitely has good synergy of different effects that are like, if you are tied with your opponent on Dawn or behind, right? Because this effectively puts your opponent ahead on Dawn. Or if you have something like Black Maria, right? That Black Maria 2K can synergize well with this card, because if your opponent ramps, Black Maria then technically on its activate main effect can have 1 more Dawn than it would have previously. I don't know how good this card is. It's so interesting. It's one of those things that, like, I really appreciate Bandai as of late. I feel like they're making like different effects and they're trying to make unique gameplay within this game. And this is a prime example of it. We've got Monet as a 5/6 2k counter vanilla, and our first event card, the technique of erasing all sounds that are caused by you. This 2 cost event card has a main effect of choosing one of your Trafalgar Laws and giving it 2,000 power during the turn. After that, if you do, your opponent can't activate blocker if the chosen card attacks during this turn. So this is really interesting in my opinion, specifically because this is another installment of, you know, a color or typing, just getting some ignore blocker kind of thing. If I'm reading this correctly, the way that this is worded, I think that this is a little bit misleading. I pulled up the translation from like the official One Piece TCG Discord, and when this says that your opponent cannot activate blocker if the chosen card attacks during this turn, that is only on that specific Trafalgar Law. It's not like if you attack first with the Trafalgar Law, then for the rest of the turn they can't do it. It's just for that one character that gets that effect and power boost. Still a very good card, don't get me wrong, especially when you can cheat out big Trafalgar Laws and have huge bodies across the board that maybe are difficult to remove. Something to watch out for. Now, Straw Hat Crew Purple is getting another 3-cost event that you can utilize in Sanji with that leader effect of, on that main, if the number of Dawn cards on your field is equal to or less than the number of Dawn cards on your opponent's field, you can draw 1 card, and then after that, one of your opponent's characters gets minus 3,000 power in the turn. So honestly, really nice in a Sanji deck, right? Using that leader effect to just cheat out this event, be able to replace it in your hand and minus 3,000 somewhere on the field. I really like this event in Sanji specifically. Might be usable in some other purple Straw Hat decks, but I don't know. It would have to be like a late game card, right? Because like blue purple Luffy, you want to go up faster than your opponent. Robin, you also want to go up faster than your opponent. Luffy, you're more than likely going up faster than your opponent. So Sanji's kind of the best fit, and I think that's what this card is designed to be. Luffy is the man who will become the king of pirates, 1-cost event. If your leader is Sanji, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add up to 1 card in your hand, place the rest at the bottom of your deck. I really wish this had a trigger of like use the main effect, right, that we see oftentimes with this 1-cost event, but I think because of the idea that Sanji can kind of play this for free and cheat this out, I think is the reason it doesn't have that. But this also grabs any card, right? It is not restrictive at all. All it is that your leader has to be Sanji. So maybe that's why it doesn't necessarily have that trigger effect similar to like New Genesis and Uta, to where like this is really strong because you can just grab whatever you want. Now, the final card in purple is the Bharati, right? This stage is the East Blue typing 1-cost stage, has an activate main of placing the stage at the bottom of your deck. If your leader is Sanji, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal an event card and add it to your hand, place the rest of the deck in any order at the bottom, and has a trigger of on play. I feel like this is kind of interesting, right? Because especially as a 1-cost event, you could probably play this a lot if you have like a good amount of searching and be able to cycle. I don't know how well you'll be able to cycle your deck, but it's almost effectively like a 1 Dawn just search for an event card, especially if you're playing an extremely high volume of event cards, you know, because it's only top 3, it's not top 5. So the more event cards that you play, the less likely you're going to whiff. Moving on to the final leader of this set, we have Black Yellow Koala. This 4-life, 5,000 power leader of Dressrosa and Revolutionary Army has 2 effects. One is an ongoing effect of when this leader attacks your opponent's leader. If you have 2 or more characters with a cost of 8 or more, draw 1 card. Already pretty good, right? But seems like a late game card. We'll get into that later. But in the meantime, has a once per turn of when your opponent plays a character with an original cost of 8 or more, or plays a character due to a character's effect, you can activate this. Your opponent adds the top card of their life to their hand. Cheating bodies in different ways is so relevant right now, and especially with blue purple Luffy playing big bodies on the field. There is a lot of life that you are going to be able to take away from your opponent just simply because of this once per turn effect. A lot of people are really excited about this leader effect and leader in general, and we'll talk about some cards of the new black typing in black and yellow Rev Army for also Dressrosa, I guess. Yeah, that too. That can be built alongside this deck. This I feel like is going to be a menace. I truly do. I don't know if it'll be like incredible or tier 1, but it's going to be one of these counter decks that are like, if your deck is not ready for it, you'll lose. But first, Dressrosa Navy Isho Vanilla 810. Inazuma, a 2K Vanilla of the Rev Army typing 5/6. Emporio Ivankov. So Emporio Ivankov, 3 cost, 4,000 power body with a 1K counter, is always blocker, but It has a when played effect that if your leader has the trait Revolutionary Army, you can place the top 3 cards of your deck into your trash. As often with black decks, and we'll talk about why Koala and some of the cards in Koala is no different, trash building is essential in a lot of black decks to get extra effects and things of that nature. So this Ivankov can, especially on the odd curve, just be really valuable to help you set up. Also, this is just Rev Army. It's not Impel Down like the purple one. Thought that was good to know. Now, Karasu is the first one of the how do we get 8 costs on the field part for the Koala. It's a 5/6 stat line with a 1k counter. This Karasu has an ongoing effect that if your leader has the characteristic Revolutionary Army, this character's cost is increased by 3. 5 plus 3 equals 8. So boom, there's your 8 costs, or at least one of them on the field right then and there. It has a when attacking though, that if your leader has the characteristic trait of Revolutionary Army and your opponent has 5 or more cards in hand, your opponent trashes 1 card in hand. This isn't you choosing a random card or anything like that. Your opponent has to choose in their hand on what to trash and then guard against your 6,000 power swing. I've seen this in pretty much every Revolutionary Army kind of deck, whether that's Koala or my personal favorite, if you saw that YouTube video, Red Black Sabo. And especially with something like Red Black Sabo being an 8 cost and having the ability to save characters, this card's pretty nice, I feel like. This might be a good card in Rev Army decks. Koala is going to be the Revolutionary Army Searcher with that on play effect as a Dressrosa Rev Army typing. If your leader has the Revolutionary Army trait, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a Revolutionary Army trait card other than Koala or a Nico Robin. Then add it to your hand, place the rest in your trash. Does a little bit of trash building, but also the ability to find Nico Robin can right then and there enhance a lot of interesting ideas and strategies, especially when you've got the starter deck Nico Robin, right? This starter deck Nico Robin from starter deck 24 says if you have a character with a cost of 8 or more, you get to give them -5, whether that's on a play or when attacking. On a 5 Dawn turn, you can play this Karasu, and then on 7, you can go ahead, play Koala, and give something -5. Your play could literally be like 3, 5, 7, which could be 3 cost Brook from EB01, 5 cost Karasu, becoming an 8 cost. And if it doesn't get removed because you have that protection effect, on 7 Dawn, play Robin -5 somewhere, and then Brook could KO something. That 1-3-5-7 strategy is just touching the surface of the potential combos within this deck now that Nico Robin is involved in this. And we're going to talk about Nico Robin more here in a second. And there it is, right on time. This 6 cost Nico Robin card is only Straw Hat Crew, but searchable off Koala, is also a 7 cost. If your leader is Koala or Luffy, this character gets blocker and +3 cost, so making it a 9 cost, but also a 7,000 power blocker. You also have an on play effect on this Robin to where you can trash 1 card from your hand, and if your opponent has 5 or more cards in your hand, they have to discard 2 cards from their hand. Think about like playing Karasu on a 5 Dawn turn, then playing Robin on 7. Your opponent has to trash 2 cards in hand, and then swinging Karasu. That's 3 cards taken out of hand before the attacks that you have. This can be so interesting, I feel like, and really opens up the door to a lot of different stuff. Not possible really in Red Black Sabo, because even though, you know, this on play effect might be really nice, you don't get the extra added effect of blocker and the +3 cost, which might hinder you a little bit. But for Koala though, Basutiu, I think is how you pronounce this character's name. I've never seen him before in my life. Dressrosa and Navy, 6 cost, 8,000 power, 1k vanilla. You've got Haku. This is Fishman, but also Dressrosa and Rev Army typing. 4 cost, 5,000 power. If your leader has the trait Rev Army, this character gains blocker and +4 cost. Again, becoming an 8 cost, and also the survivability added onto that while gaining that cost can just be so nice for a lot of different things within this deck to fulfill your leader effect. You could honestly go like play this guy down on curve on 4, and then on 6 play down Karasu, have 2 8 costs on the field, go ahead, swing at lead, and draw 1 card because you have 2 characters with a cost of 8 or more. This Haku also has a on KO effect of if your leader has the trait of Rev Army, you can KO up to one of your opponent's original characters with a cost of 4 or less. Especially when you like play this on curve and he gains blocker because you have a Koala Rev Army leader, you can go ahead and trade when they swing. This guy's really interesting, I feel like. Bello Betty's a 3 cost, 4,000 power 2k that's when attacking on that Rev Army typing. If you place the top 2 cards of your deck into your trash, up to one of your opponent's characters has a cost reduced by 2 during this turn. I feel like this could just be like a searchable 2k. I feel like in Koala, you don't necessarily have a lot of KO effects at this point. You're just like boosting up your characters to get your effects off. And that's kind of like your primary focus. But who knows, if you have some more removal based decks that focus really in on the minusing, okay, I see it. Poker is part of the Smile Pirates and 100 Beast Pirates. The 3 cost 4,000 power 1k counter character has an activate main of once per turn. You can place 3 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, and up to 2 of your characters with the Smile trait gain plus 2,000 power during the turn. Here are all the Smile Pirate characters that we have right now. Not a huge card pool. It more so exists in purple, right? These are all the purple Smile type cards. Now, if we happen to get a Smile type leader or something really utilizing the Smile engine, then maybe I could see this having like a little bit more play. But other than that, it's bulk. It could be nice though if you play this vanilla 2k67 of Smile Pirates, right? Because, well, you can make this a 9. And Morley is another character in the Rev Army that boosts itself to 8 because this 2k character, if your leader has the Rev Army typing, the character's cost is increased by 4, making it, you guessed it, 8. Now, Dragon is what is probably the most interesting card in this Rev Army package. It's an 8 cost, 8,000 power character that has the on play. You can place 3 cards with the characteristic of Rev Army from your trash to the bottom of your deck. And if your leader is a Rev Army leader, you can play a character with a cost of 6 or less from your trash. Gecko Moria is back in black and it's in this Dragon. And that's why I mentioned earlier that building up your trash is actually really important for this deck. If you can put those 3 cards back and you have a 4th card in there that you want to play of 6 or less, go ahead and get it out. And guess what? The character that you bring back from the trash doesn't have to be Rev Army, doesn't have to be black. It can be anything. So if you've got a dual type leader in Rev Army like Koala, like Red Black Sabo, Dragon can bring back anything 6 cost or less. This card's cracked. This card's good. Really excited for this card. Definitely going to soup up my Red Black Sabo as I've talked about on this channel already. And I'm really excited. Lindbergh is another pseudo 8 cost kind of character. 5,000 power 1k counter, costs 4, and also has that ongoing effect like Morley that if your leader has the characteristic of Rev Army, gets plus 4 cost. And also, when played, it's a draw 1, trash 1 effect. So you could do a little bit of hand filtering as well. Now, for the events, we have Bear Impact. This is 7 Warlords of the Sea Rev Army typing with a main effect of KOing up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. If you have a character with a cost of 8 or more, which happens a lot with a lot of these characters, might I add, you can actually KO an opponent's character of a cost of 6 or less instead of 4 or less. This is a nice removal card if you want to go in more towards that removal route that we talked about. 4/6, pretty nice, I feel like, especially in sort of the mid game when you play a character down and it's an 8 cost and then your opponent plays down a 5 or 6 cost character. The very next turn, just remove it. Get rid of it. The Gathering of Military Commanders event card in this Rev Army typing is basically just top 3 cards of your deck. You find a Rev Army card other than this one, add it to your hand, put the rest in trash. It's trash building, has that activate main effect on the trigger, and provides consistency with your deck. I definitely see this because especially with Dragon as well, Dragon just puts Rev Army type cards back in the deck in order to gain that bring back effect. It's not putting back Rev Army characters specifically. So that's something to note. Also for Rev Army and also Impel Down, Dream Strike place back Fist Is that what that's called? Is a 1-cost counter event that gives 2,000 power to one of your leader or characters during the battle. But if you have a Rev Army character with a cost of 8 or more, which happens a lot with this deck, you can get an extra 2,000 power, making it 4,000 in total. This could be a really cool event card, especially as you've established board a little bit, and I find this to be really interesting in some decks. Moving on to yellow, we got Calgara support. This 5-cost 6,000 power Calgara with 1k counter has an effect of your turn when your life is separated, draw 1 card. I think this basically means like when your life leaves the life area. Yeah, when a life card is removed, draw 1 card. After that, though, you cannot draw cards with your own effects during this turn. This is just really nice to have right in the Jaya Sky Island Shandor Warriors package with Calgara, because right now the combo of like playing Calgara and Norland is very limited to like just 8 cards in your deck. So having the potential to be able to find another Calgara that you can use maybe for leader effect or anything like that can be really nice to be able to add a little bit of consistency to your deck. Just helps make it easier so you're not just playing like the vanilla character down, you're also getting this guy, which is a little bit less than power, but has the ability to help you draw cards. The second effect is basically just making sure that you don't play like 3 Calgaras of this on the field, and then just like anytime you take your own life, you just draw a bunch of cards. Kind of like checking the game a little bit. We've got Sabo in the yellow Dressrosa Red Army. If your life is at 3 or less, this character gains blocker and +3 cost. The on play effect as well is if you add the top card of your life to your hand, you can draw 2, trash 1. This is a nice guy with added consistency, especially when we have the 2-cost Sabo, right? From that starter deck 13, Three Brothers Bond. This is just another 5-cost Sabo to evolve into, and especially because a lot of decks I feel like that want to play this card, if they do, are at 3 life or less very frequently because they're typically 4 life leaders. You're going to have a 5-cost 6,000 power blocker that just draws cards. Could be pretty nice, I feel like, for Rev Army kind of decks. Now, Jewelry Bonnie is a little bit of potential green-yellow loss support. This 3-cost 1,000 power character with the 1k counter does have a trigger effect of playing the card if your leader has the Supernova trait, and an activate main of putting the card into rest mode. Your leaders with the trait Supernova gain 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. I don't know how much you play this Bonnie in green yellow law, especially with some of the starter deck stuff that we've got told of as stuff that you might want to put in your deck, but this could be an option in the card pool that you have. It just feels weird. Like if you play this on trigger, it's pretty good, right? So like the 3-drop Bonnie blocker, being able to put this card in life, or like the 7-cost Trafalgar Law, being able to put this card in life to then play for free, leave it on the field for the rest of your opponent's turn, and then get that extra 1,000 power boost. It just seems like a lot of work, I feel like. Shirahoshi is an addition to the green-yellow Shirahoshi deck that came out in OP11. It's a 2-cost character with 0 power and 1k counter of an ongoing effect. If your character with an original cost of 6 or less leaves the field due to your opponent's effect, you can turn the top card of your life face up instead. Really nice for survivability of your different characters, right? Also, on your opponent's turn, if you have no other Shirahoshi on the field with an original cost of 2, all of your characters with the characteristic Sea King get 2,000 power. If you've seen Shirahoshi decks in OP11, you know that you play a lot of like Sea King type characters. So being able to, on your opponent's turn, gain 2,000 power can be really nice for trying to survive on the field in battles, especially when your leader can't attack. I really like this card for the Shirahoshi deck. I feel like this is just like a small little buff that it could be really good for it. Part of Calgara's support, we have a Seth, a 2k vanilla. Sentamaru is a 4-cost 5,000 power Egghead Navy vanilla 1k counter with a trigger of KOing up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. Especially as Egghead, no, I don't really see this being played because you just play the like Egghead Luffy right from OP07, and that's just infinitely a better card on top of that, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you play this card. Space is too tight. Now, Trafalgar Rami is a 1-cost 2k with a your turn on play effect of up to one of your Trafalgar Law cards gets 2,000 power during the turn. It's a Furebensu, I think is what the typing is. I have no idea. I know nothing about this card. I have no context of this card whatsoever. Also, is this character related to Trafalgar Law at all? Because actually don't answer that question because they share a name. But anyways, this could be kind of nice in like an endgame scenario of being able to boost up your Trafalgar Law characters or leaders to get that extra power to go for lethal and to get over the amount of counter that your opponent has in hand. Plus, this could be really easy to like shamble out, right? You pay 1 Don with your Trafalgar Law leader to play this down, and then you shambles it back up. It's like you never spent on a 2K at all. Huh. Okay, interesting. Now, we do have a new 6-cost, 7,000 power yellow Trafalgar Law, and it's a blocker. I mean, the thing about this is, especially with Rosinante, I see this in Rosinante specifically, being able to cheat out a Trafalgar Law by 2 cost means that on a 4 Don turn, you can play a 7,000 power Trafalgar Law blocker, which on a 4 Don turn is awesome. Now, Don Quixote Doflamingo is a 7 Warlords of the Sea Don Quixote Pirates yellow type that if your life is 2 or less, this character gains Rush. Also on your opponent's turn when KO'd, you can add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to your life. Now, this is on your opponent's turn anytime it gets KO'd. It could be in battle, it could be by an effect. Trashing it or bottom decking it or putting it back in hand, I guess, is the only way to not prompt this on KO effect. So could be something that you see in different, well, actually this can be like any yellow deck. Yeah, because there's no leader restrictions. I don't know exactly where you play this though. I feel like Rosinante probably is the prime example. What other yellow decks could play this? I mean, this could be something in like a Nell, right? You have just like a low life leader that even though it's not necessarily searchable, which you don't really do a ton of searching anyways in the deck, it could be a sticky body that potentially heals up and an 8,000 power rush. It's not that bad. It'll be curious to see if we get more like yellow Don Quixote Pirates or 7 Warlords of the Sea type decks and cards for support in that category. But we do have this Don Quixote Rosinante 1 cost right here that when played, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, grab a Trafalgar Law, add it to your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Definitely good in the Rosinante deck, right? Just simply because you're probably playing a good amount of Trafalgar Laws anyway, and because this is not color restricted, you can find purple Trafalgar Laws, you can find yellow Trafalgar Laws, all the Trafalgar Laws to your heart's desire. Pacifista is an Egghead Navy biological weapons kind of card. It's a vanilla 4-cost 5,000 power with a trigger. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 1 or less, then add this card to your hand. I still don't think you play this in Vegapunk. Buffalo is a Don Quixote Pirates 3/5 card. That's a 1K counter vanilla. I don't know if I've ever seen this guy before. Does this guy have a Don Quixote Pirates type card at all? Baby 5 is also a vanilla. This is a 2/4 vanilla specifically in the Don Quixote Pirates type. And the 4-cost Baby 5 is a 2K vanilla 4/5. But if your leader is multicolored on this trigger, you can draw 2 cards. Definitely think you can play this in Rosinante. Now, Zoro adds in the Supernova Straw Hat Crew card pool with a 5-cost 6,000 power stat line. Having an on-KO effective if your leader has the trait Supernova, you can play a character card with the type of Supernova of a cost of 4 or less from your hand as rested. I would have loved if this said active, but could be something nice, especially with your like shambling or like Supernova putting in life in green-yellow law. Could be an interesting card as support for the deck. Wiper is a 2K vanilla 6/7 stat line for the Sky Island Shandora Warriors type. I Love You is an event, a 1-cost counter event of up to one of your leaders or character cards gets 2,000 power in the battle, and if you have 2 or less life, you can add a Trafalgar Law from your trash to your hand. Really gets the recycling in the Rosinante deck of those Trafalgar Laws, and it may be one of those decks that you're like hovering in 2 life, kind of like Vegapunk and Enel, to where you're just okay with going low to get the early game going, and then you're just constantly having that balance in that area to continuously recycle these different cards. It's an interesting event. I do wish though that they didn't choose this art, because this is the same exact thing as the Dawn card, and I know that this is a very popular panel, and people love this. I don't know if I want it to be a little bit different, but it just feels weird that we're repeating stuff. Now, Sky Island's also getting an event card in this. I'll ring the bell and wait for you. It's a 3-cost event that looks at the top 5, revealing 2 characters with the characteristic of Shandora Warriors or Mont Black Norland in its name, and add it to the hand, then place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. This is really funny to me because the deck that primarily played those 2-cost music events in EBO2 was Calgara. Now Calgara doesn't need to play it anymore. They have a way to find Mont Black Nolan. I definitely think Calgara adds this card into the deck in replacement for that 2-cost event, especially because you can look at the top 5 and grab 2 cards. Even though it costs a Don more, you still have the ability to cheat out like different characters, so like it's probably not all that bad. Destruction String is this 1-cost event card, Supernova Kid Pirates type. With the main, you can rest 5 of your own Don, so resting 6 Dawn in total for this event. If your leader has the characteristic of Supernova, you can add 1 character with a cost of 9 or less to the owner's life face down. That's a lot. Like 9 cost or less for 6 Dawn is a pretty good removal event, especially in life too. This also has the ability with counter if your leader gets plus 3,000 power during the battle, if you just want to use it as a counter event. And for the secret rares of this set, we've got Jewelry Bonnie. This 5-cost 6,000 power green Supernova Bonnie Pirates type character is a blocker with an on-play effect. This on-play effect of if you have 8 or more rested cards, you can draw 2 and trash 1 from your hand, then activate 1 of your Dawn cards. Basically, restand 1 of your Dawn as active. Sorry, I'm trying to pet a cat and explain at the same time. A lot of Bonnie friends that I've talked about says that this card is actually really nice for the Bonnie deck and is something that Bonnie needs. Bonnie needs draw. Bonnie needs filtering. And this card, especially because you can play this on curve and restand 1 of your Dawn, could be really nice. Now, in order to get that restand though and draw the cards, this is 8 or more rested cards. So that includes your leader, right? That counts into 1 of your 8 rested cards. This includes characters on the field in the 8 or more rested cards. It also includes the Dawn that you utilized in order to pay for this character. So if your leader's already swung and you play down this character, that's 6 cards in total that are rested, and so if you had a Jewelry Bonnie search, if you had a Cavendish swing, that right there is 8 cards that you have rested in order to draw. I like this card in Bonnie. This also could potentially be like a green-yellow law buff in a sense. I don't know if you play this card in green yellow law, but it being a 5-cost Supernova could be really good as well for that deck, especially just with the ability to swarm the board. You probably could earlier have 8 or more rested cards than something like Bonnie could. I'm really curious about this card and where it's going to be placed in the deck. Now, the final card in this set is Bartholomew Kuma. This 6-cost 7,000 power secret rare has a 1k counter and a fantastic art. By the way, I love this art. It's got 2 different effects on it as a 7 Warlords of the Sea Rev Army type character. On play, you can trash 1 card from your hand, and if you do, add the top card from the top of your deck to your life, and this character gets plus 2 costs until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So, another installment in Koala's I'm going to make literally everything an 8 cost. This fulfills that condition. But also on your opponent's turn on KO, you get to add the top card from your deck to your life. So this Bartholomew Kuma has the ability to gain 2 life for literally 1 card played on the field. It's a body that your opponents are going to have to trash instead of KOing, or maybe even bottom decking or anything like that. This card could be nice. I'm really curious to see how much of this is going to be included in Koala, especially because in order to get these effects off of the healing, all you have to do is just trash 1 card on the on play effect. It's not like you have to have a Rev Army leader or you have to have 1 or less life or anything like that. It's literally just like, oh yeah, trash a card in hand, heal. It's going to be really cool. And that is getting all the cards that we're getting in OP12. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's definitely a long video, but I wanted to go over the set review because I think this set has a lot of interesting things that are going to be really cool in the format, right? Even if none of them are like tier 1 or a great deck right right away. I definitely think it's an upgrade in general overall. I think every leader, maybe like the least likely is Rosinante, but like most every leader has some sort of competitiveness to it that was kind of absent in OP11 with those leaders that were introduced, right? It was blue, purple Luffy, and late to the game was blue, yellow Nami. And like that was it. So I think although none of these leaders will become like a tier 0 or like the best deck in format, I think that a lot of them could be competitively viable in the upcoming moments of this format. I'm really excited about it. We'll have a meta tier list as well coming soon for OP12. I think, oh man, it's really weird because like we're going to be officially in like the different formats kind of thing for a little bit because the West is getting the starter decks at the beginning of June, but Japan isn't getting the starter decks until the end of June. So it's like, should I make a OP12 meta tier list now because I cover the Eastern content and try to predict without the starter decks and then maybe like go back to it once the starter decks are releasing and we know a little bit about how the starter decks influence the meta because of the West? Or do I just wait in general to the end of when Japan is going to be releasing it? It's kind of crazy. And we got to talk about OP11 and stuff. OP11 coming out in the West. A lot of content coming in. I have a whole whiteboard over here that I keep looking at that you can't see, and you're not allowed to see because there's some secret stuff on there. But really cool stuff is coming to the channel. Hope you're here with me for it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.